All right, guys, so we got to talk about a story that we talked about before, but we have to talk about it again because it's not getting enough attention. And this story involves some high school girls out in Randolph, Vermont, who have been kicked out of the girls' locker room, right, their own locker room, because they are uncomfortable with a transgender student being allowed to change in the locker room in front of them. Now, again, these girls bravely spoke out about how uncomfortable they are with a biological male being in the same locker room with them, being allowed to change or having to change in front of a biological male. And they were met with basically resistance from the school, okay? In the sense that, again, yeah, they got kicked out of their own locker room, not the transgender student, because apparently the transgender student has special rights. So this is still an ongoing situation, and even more girls now are speaking out about how they're uncomfortable with this situation. But before I get into that, what I want to do is I actually want to play a clip of the dangers of even allowing boys and girls to compete against each other in a sport like volleyball, because the transgender individual student in the locker room in question is also on the volleyball team. So this actually happened out in Cherokee County. This footage I'm about to show you guys, in which a transgender student injured a biological girl volleyball player doing a match. Take a look at this. Now, again, that happened in North Carolina. The story that we're talking about today is in Vermont. But what I'm saying is that these girls have a lot of reasons to be speaking out against this, right? Not just because of the bathroom thing, too, because you could argue that it's unsafe for them to even be playing with a biological male on the volleyball court. That girl you guys just saw that basically got knocked out from that hit with the volleyball from the transgender individual, she suffered a concussion. Okay, and she still, as of the making of this video, has not been cleared to participate in sports again. The coach said he's never seen anything like that before. A girl get hit with that much force and power. So again, this is what women have to deal with. This is what girls have to deal with. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and roll this clip of these high school girls in Vermont that are speaking out about not just the transgender person being on their team, but also having to share a locker room with the transgender individual as well. Take a look.
We're here in Randolph, Vermont, where a group of high school girls is facing backlash for daring to speak out against a biological male using their locker room.
A male was in our locker room when volleyball girls were trying to get changed. After I asked him to leave, he didn't, and later looked over at girls with their shirts off, and it made many people uncomfortable and feel violated. I left as soon as I could in a panic.
I was the first one inside the locker room at the time, and the trans student came in and walked into a separate part of the locker room and went and changed while the other girls were in the main part of the locker room changing as well. As soon as the trans identifying student was done changing, they came out and stood at the entrance of the locker room for a little bit. A lot of the girls were changing in their sports bras and stuff. A lot of us stated, like, can you please get out? We're changing, we don't feel comfortable with you in here. After a little while, the student did leave, but it took a little bit for the student to leave, and a lot of us were not comfortable with that situation, and it's happened before, and so we want it just to be changed, really.
In a locker room, it's made specifically for girls, and so having a male with a penis in there, it just felt wrong.
When you tried to talk to your school officials about what happened, what did they say?
When I tried to talk to them, they just shut me down and said it was a law, there was nothing they could do, and that I should go somewhere else if I feel uncomfortable.
The superintendent quoted another student saying that nobody was changing when the trans identifying student.
That's not true.
That's not true.
No. A lot of the girls were changing, actually.
And when you say they were changing, does it mean like they had their shirts off, they were putting they were in their underwear?
Everyone was at like different points of changing. Like, some girls were already dressed, some girls weren't dressed at all, some girls were like in the middle of changing, like.
So why would someone say that they weren't?
I feel like everyone's just trying to twist the story on us and make us look like the bad people in this situation.
We're dealing with an issue right now where there is a biological guy that's been using the girls' locker room, and all these people are pushing back against it a lot. Has this happened before at the high school?
It's happened in the bathrooms a lot. Definitely more in the bathroom.
In the bathrooms as opposed to the locker rooms?
Yeah.
So have you ever been in one of the bathrooms or locker rooms and a biological male who identifies as a transgender student came in?
Yes, but they didn't identify as trans. They said that they were gay, so that they weren't attracted to me, so they were allowed in.
Oh, wow. So gay male students have been using the girls' bathrooms?
In the past years, yes.
Wow. How did they get away with that?
The school didn't care much to listen to our concerns. And then when we did say something, the person, he would file complaints of harassment because I looked at him wrong, and file complaints against a lot of people.
I've heard a lot of people state that the trans-identifying student has more rights than the rest of us. And like, that's a good way to put it. Like, they care more about that one singular student than the rest of the girls. So they're like telling us all to go get changed in the single stalls instead of the locker room. And the trans person can have the locker room while all of us go into different places.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. These people, right, if you're part of the alphabet community, you have special rights and privileges. Again, they're not fighting for equal rights anymore, okay? This is not a conversation about equal rights. And this is why I keep trying to tell people. It is a conversation about special right, because it is a special right to be able to use the bathroom or locker room that does not match your genitalia or it doesn't match your sex, and to basically force everybody else to leave who is uncomfortable being around you, okay? Because they don't have that right to privacy anymore. They don't have a right to privacy against men who want to identify as women. They don't have that anymore. Again, you know, the left, when it comes to the whole Roe v. Wade conversation, oh, right to privacy, which is not really about a right to privacy. But this right here, which is about a right to privacy, which these girls have, okay, to not have to show their bodies to, you know, other kids or students of the opposite sex. No, they don't get that. You don't get that, because the rights and the feelings of this transgender student supersede the rights and the feelings of these biological girls, right? Kind of crazy the country we live in. You guys notice what's happening here? For the side of the political aisle, the Democrats and liberals that claim that the party switched, when it comes to the race issue and the sex issue or the gender issue, I can't really tell, because who fought for women's rights? Who fought for women's rights to vote? Which party was the most supportive of that? The Republican Party, right? The Republican Party was much more supportive of a women's right to vote, the 19th Amendment, than the Democrats, right? The Republican Party also was much more supportive of civil rights than the Democrats. But lo and behold, fast forward, 50, 60, 70, 80 years later, when Democrats say that the party switch, we have the Republican Party is the party that wants equal rights, not special rights, equality, not equity, among races. And the Republican Party is also the only party that is fighting for a women's right to compete in sports among themselves and to not have to share a locker room with biological boys or men. So again, it's funny how that works. The Democrats claim to be the party of, so-called colored people and being against racism and for women's rights, but they're actively pushing racism and they're actively against women's rights. Kind of funny how that works, but they want to tell us the party switch. However, again, you got, conservatives, Republicans, we're fighting for women's rights. We're fighting for a colorblind society. We're fighting for equality when it comes to race. The Democrats are fighting for the exact opposite. But this school board and this school administration, they're cowards. They're all cowards. They're cowering to a state law that they claim prevent them from doing anything about it, but they can do something about it. They can make a restroom that's only for transgender students. They can make the transgender students use the single restroom rather than making the high school girls use the single restroom. But no. You got to kick 13, 14, 15 girls out of the locker room just for one person. Right? That's how backwards this is. That's how backwards this is when no. The one person should have to go and use the single restroom. They should do that and then everybody is happy. That is the solution. But again, you have somebody there that wants special rights. And these special rights, you end up putting yourself in situations and having things happen because the law and what you're allowing is stupid. Like, for example, one of the girls talked about how a gay student was taking advantage of this by saying, hey, well, I don't like women. I'm not attracted to women, so it's okay for me to use the bathroom. So again, you got students who don't even identify as trans that are taking advantage of this just to be in the girls' locker room or bathroom because they want to be in there. Again, which is something that everybody predicted would happen, right? You will have students that would take advantage of this. But again, the part here that I really want to talk about, and I'll make sure I mention, is how brave these girls are. Because at one point during this interview, they talked about how they know what's coming. They know that people will try to cancel them. They know that they're going to lose scholarship opportunities because they're speaking out. However, they decided to speak out anyways because they're standing on this principle that they should not be forced to use a bathroom with a biological male or somebody of the opposite sex because it makes them uncomfortable. And they're going on camera as teenage girls, understanding the backlash that they're going to get and speaking out about it anyways, which makes the college swimmer girls that were competing against Leah Thomas that refused to go on camera and speak out about this. They refused to show their face because of fear of being canceled. It makes them look bad. It really does. But when it comes to a story like this, where these girls are not afraid to go on camera, they're not afraid to put their face behind this, it makes me want to really support them because I know that they understand the ramifications of what they're doing and what's coming. But it's important that we show that we support them, right? That you are supported, that there are people that are standing behind you and your right to have your own spaces, to not have your spaces dominated by men, right? Again, if these college swimmers had the same amount of cojones as these girls, there would not have been an NCAA national championship in swimming for Leah Thomas to compete in. Leah Thomas would not have been allowed to compete if the college girls had nearly as much cojones as these girls. So again, that's why I'm doing this video, is because I know that there's going to be a lot of backlash, and I want to make sure that these girls know that, hey, you got people that's behind you that support you and that understand where you're coming from, which is important because not enough women are standing up against this. And when women do stand up against it and they show their faces and they put everything they can behind protecting their rights, we have to be there for them to show, you know what, we do support you in the face of this woke nonsense. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.